problems with pests like the diamondback moth. And as the farmers continue to produce during the dry season, it becomes like an oasis for pests that would normally decline in the dry season. But because the temperatures are hotter, the pests can have a faster reproduction cycle, and they build resilience to things like pesticides, which is what the peri-urban farmer will often resort to. In India, or particularly in Hubli Dharwad and many other Indian cities, the only extension a peri-urban farmer gets is the local pesticide dealer, and who will come on site with his cocktails, with the products to sell, and again, there's not many other options for the peri-urban farmer to turn to, and so we end up with a very heavy use of agricultural chemicals, often cocktails. Also, very negative spraying regimes, and just from this photo alone, which is not a staged photo, we can see an old worn knapsack sprayer, no protective clothing, children eating food in the vicinity, all these issues that are rarely addressed. And again, the only extension for this farmer is the pesticide dealer. Other issues specifically for gender, women often are the labour for peri-urban agriculture, and again, it's when we're looking at issues of pathogens and reducing the risk, there's specific issues then that have to be addressed to reduce problems of bacterial infections, diarrhea, and a range of other public health issues. Okay, moving on to some of the other constraints that we have. One in particular is flooding, and I'll touch upon a few slides of this. Of course, this is also linked to climate change, and like I said at the beginning, one of the issues about peri-urban, and this why it will be a final frontier, is this problem of decline in rural food production. And of course, we see this now. It only takes a slight increase in temperature, a slight increase in rainfall variability, and we have profound impacts as a result, and food insecurity. This is a photo I took about a month ago. It's a city which is a town which is at the forefront of climate change impact. It's called Mandera. I visited this town about 4 years ago, and already it's nearly doubled in size. And what we have here, this is on the border of Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya, where the three countries meet. And if I can use this here, this is actually the border here, the river. So here is Ethiopia, and here is Kenya. And the particular issues here linked to climate change are things like the slight variations. In fact, this town, because we've had the Horn of Africa famine now, the drought for 3 years, this town has increased rainfall during this period, the last 3 years. However, it's in a very intense, short periods where farmers can no longer capture and harvest, and it no longer contributes to the regeneration of pastures, for example. And flash flood also creates flash flooding, which destroys the irrigated agriculture. So it's a double whammy, if you like. And the impact one is drought conditions, and we see this constantly with the Horn of Africa at the moment. And this is an example of climate change impact, and it's only a very slight variation required to result with these kind of issues and problems. This is I find this an absolutely fascinating photo. This is a town in England called Tewkesbury, and it was taken during a 1990 flood. And again, I'm just highlighting this issue of small variation, huge impact. And if we look on this particular photo, here, this here is all the flood water. Here's the main river coming down from the River Severn. This is the River Avon, and they meet here at Tewkesbury. And of course, the only area that's not flooded in the town is this plot of land here. And since this flood in 1990, they built a supermarket on that plot. And then when we had a flood in 2007, the supermarket was flooded. And of course, a lot of the people during these flood impacts from this town, in 2007 I conducted research in this town, and there was a public protest about these settlements that have been built here and here, and how it contributed to flooding. And of course, you can see the size of these settlements, the size of these watersheds, which extend to nearly a quarter of England. These had no play in this, and it was all about slight variation, slight increase in rainfall. Agricultural land could no longer have the capacity to absorb that. We get urban flooding. Okay, a good example of this is Pakistan 2010. Very slight increase in total rainfall, but no longer can the landscapes cope due to things like the focus on irrigation and feed in the Middle East and cash crops. That we change the landscape to such an extent that we get accelerated runoff. And where does it go? It goes to urban areas downstream. And peri-urban has a key role in providing buffer opportunities to manage some of these issues. This is a photo from Kigali, Rwanda. This is an example where people are now looking to transform cities back to what they were. And what we have going on here is some of the wetland areas have been restored again. And on this, we can see here, developments like this have been removed now, relocated to higher ground so they can restore wetlands. Because these areas are continuously being flooded every year now, it becomes a common practice. Here we can see runoff coming from the city itself, and this is a river going past, coming from the rural area, and it gives also an indicator of water quality issues that we're dealing with as well.